Thank you so much. This is indeed an honor. It's great to be with you this evening. This is my first time in California, so it's especially nice to be received so warmly. I've had the great pleasure to meet many of you so far, and I hope to meet many more of you as the evening goes on. This book bears my name, but it's really the product of many different people who have influenced and inspired me. And so before I share just a few short words with you, I feel that it's my duty and indeed my honor to recognize them. John Esposito, a professor at Georgetown and a mentor and friend of mine, wrote the beautiful foreword to this book. I showed up in his office one afternoon with a copy of the manuscript, enthusiastic about it, and asked him, "Listen, I want you to help me with this project." And he believed in me and he inspired me. His insights along the way were inspiring, as is his continued work as someone who fights against injustice and seeks to create a world where Muslims and non-Muslims live together as peaceful neighbors. Also, author Reza Aslan, who has come to be a good friend of mine also, gave selflessly of his time and encouraged me along a writing path that he has come to know quite well. And even amidst the birth of his two new twin boys, he gave of his time and would converse with me over the telephone and share his ideas and his critiques. And so I am, of course, grateful for that. Certainly, also, none of this would have been possible without the support of my beautiful wife, Naima. She is my best friend and also one of my heroes. And over the past year, she has allowed this book and this project to take up an enormous amount of space in our life. And she has caringly supported me as only a soulmate can. So I'm forever indebted to her. I started writing the Islamophobia industry in the summer of 2010 when the controversy that had engulfed Times Square over the so-called Ground Zero mosque that was not a mosque and was not at Ground Zero began to fester and spread outwards into various parts of the country. And I was intrigued and fascinated even by the way in which that episode mushroomed into a national hysteria. And so I began to research the issue, and as I did, I came across several key players involved, and it became clear to me then that the heightened anti-Muslim sentiment in the United States and in Europe as well was not just some naturally occurring phenomenon, but rather a product that had been carefully manufactured and nurtured for more than a decade by a tight-knit, well-funded group of fear merchants. And these individuals, many of whom I discuss in the book, have created a cottage industry frightening people about Muslims and Islam. And so I felt that it was important to tell that story and to expose the dense web of connections and the money sources and to demonstrate just how these people operate. And so in the book, I show how those on the front lines of the anti-Sharia movements in U.S. courts, for example, are linked to the wave of opposition over mosque constructions. I show how the people involved in anti-Muslim training programs within the government are also supporters of and fundraisers for European hate groups that have helped institutionalize prejudice in countries like France and Belgium. I show how the spinsters and propagandists who run racist bus ads and now metro ads in places like California and New York and Washington, D.C., and Muslims are savages engaged in a culture war with Israel, are actually linked to far-right Israeli settler groups in the West Bank who fund Islamophobic projects in the United States in hopes of further demonizing Muslims and advancing dehumanizing programs of violence and land grabbing against the Palestinians. I show how the actors in the Islamophobia industry get their money, from whom, and the often deadly consequences of their project in our society. So in the spirit of what brings us here tonight, upholding our Constitution and defending our faith, I felt like the best way to move in a direction where our society can begin to limit the reach and the scope of this network was to write, to exercise my constitutionally protected right, and dedicate my work as an author and a writer to this cause. I believe that this racism du jour will eventually be overcome, but it won't happen by limiting speech. It will happen by multiplying speech, by multiplying the voices of pluralism and peace, and fostering a climate where those who seek to divide us are drowned out and dismissed. I'd like to thank CAIR for this wonderful award. I'd like to thank each of you for the patience and the tolerance that you have in the face of injustice, as well as for the work that you do to realize our common humanity. I understand that there's a book signing after the event, and so I certainly hope to see many of you there and have the chance to continue this important conversation. Thank you so much.